The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
Is the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday, the 17th of December. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman, and Zeke, our guy, resting up the old voice box here. He should be ready to go. Zeke, how are you feeling?
Better than I was this time last week. I went to the Vikings versus Falcons game and caught some COVID while I was down there. So, but the Vikings won. I took one for the team. Sam Darnold played much better last week against Kirko than he did last night against Caleb Williams. But a win is a win, and I'm back. I'm back.
Kirk Cousins had to give you COVID, but that's okay.
That's okay. The Vikings won, and Kirk looked like he had COVID last night. He played terrible against the Raiders, wherever they're from now, Las Vegas or something.
Say what you want about Kirk Cousins. He always gets his team to that 7-9, 9-7 mark, and that's exactly where they're going to be again.
Big win against the Raiders last night. Yeah,
it's
when he needs the win, he gets it. He found a way to win that 15-9 shootout.
Oh, man, I don't mean to rip on the guy because he's gone, and we have a lot more to talk about. But there's just a little bit of like, it's good that it's somebody else's mess to worry about right now.
He had like 112 passing yards against the Raiders.
But it's okay.
In prime time.
It's okay because he's getting paid $40 million and he's under contract for 3 more seasons. And instead of drafting help around him, they drafted a quarterback, which seems like the savvy pick now. But if you knew you were going to draft the quarterback all the way, why did you sign him to a 4-year contract? Falcons, get out of here.
Mentorship to mentor Penix. They're pulling the long game. They're pulling the A-Rod game here is what they're doing.
They're playing the long game. It's why Kirk decided to not stay with the Vikings because they were going to draft his replacement. He wasn't all about that mentoring stuff. And then they forced him to do it anyway.
They could have had Josh McCown mentor Kirk along the way too. What a ridiculous. I don't feel sorry for Atlanta even a little.
Right. Have fun with that.
I'm more interested though in Zeke being a super spreader. Have we considered the
potentially the 3 guys I went with, they did get sick also, not COVID stuff, but itchy throats and coughs and stuff.
So you're patient zero?
Well, we were on the very upper deck. We were sitting against the wall, and so I had the whole stadium to spread my junk.
That's right there. All you had to do was go.
Yeah, sorry, Section 320 at the Falcons game.
He went to the Gallahorn, and all of his droplets just.
COVID, how dare you?
Yeah, I will say COVID headache when Sam Darnold's throwing 5 touchdowns. Wonderful. It was great. It was great.
That's been the remedy this whole time.
There's one picture of me at the game. I'll see if I can find it, and I look like I'm about to die. It was a selfie that the 4 of us took, and I am not looking great.
Zeke had more enthusiasm on his face when the Cardinals lost the state tournament game. And that's
yeah. Get me out.
I look a little rough.
Smile through the pain.
In that one.
Yeah. To smile for pictures, but that's it.
That was the one picture I took. I'm out.
We'll talk about the Vikings in a second. They got a Monday Night Football win over the Bears. Let's start locally. Corey, you are on the call tonight. You're going back to the Nest as Corey Zeke is making his quest to be the broadcaster with the most ever games at the Nest.
I think tonight should do it. I think tonight is the milestone night. I can't be for certain, but just to play it safe, my game there last week probably tied the record. Tonight should put me over the top. And then I'm just Barry Bonds crushing him into McCovey Cove the rest of this year. I've got Staples-Motley Cardinals girls basketball at home versus Barnesville. This is a Heart of Lakes Conference matchup this evening. No JV game again tonight. So CJ Zeke, I am a perfect record on the season. All of my games have been moved up because of no JV. So this is a 6:15 pregame and a 6:30 start time from the Nest. AM 1430, 98.5 FM, The Fan.
The Fan. Yeah. Heart of Lakes schedule now for Staples-Motley, and they're kind of going through that, obviously it's a grind no matter what in your conference play, but first year going in this new conference for girls basketball, and we'll call it a grind. So they kind of keep that going tonight. Listen to Corey's call on the Fan. I have some Park Region Conference girls basketball tonight. We have Wadena Deer Creek hosting Bertha-Hewitt, and it should be a nice one. Obviously, Wadena Deer Creek is enjoying some early success on the season. Bertha-Hewitt is 6-1 with their one loss coming to a very good Monaga Braves team. Otherwise, you have wins over Parker's Prairie, Browerville, Eagle Valley, Henning, Pillager. They got some wins in a tournament in Long Prairie over the weekend, beating Minneapolis South and Ashby. So this is a team that they came into the season knowing they had a pretty good combination of girls to have a nice season, and so far so good. And so far so good is the story for Wadena Deer Creek as well. They are 6-0 on the campaign, 2-0 in Section 8 AA, 3-0 in the Park Region Conference. They had 3 games in a row last week. Park Rapids area Thursday, New York Mills on Friday, Crookston on Saturday. They came away with 2 section wins and a Park Region Conference win as well as they get ready for their matchup with Bertha-Hewitt. If you take a look at the Park Region Conference standings right now, Wadena Deer Creek and Monaga both hold the top spot with 3 wins and no losses. Bertha-Hewitt cemented in that next spot at 2-1. New York Mills and Sabika both 1-1. Pillager 1-2. Verndale and Henning currently 0-3 as it stands right now. Before Wadena Deer Creek, they are playing Bertha-Hewitt tonight. It'll be an interesting look at this at these two teams as they play each other, and to kind of see what happens in that game tonight. Obviously, both teams have some scorers. Both teams have some players they feel like can do some stuff on that end of the floor. I think it's going to come down to which defenses play more efficiently, and that's been Wadena Deer Creek's calling card. So we'll see how this game looks tonight. I know Bertha-Hewitt's got some size that they want to use down low, and Wadena Deer Creek makes it very tough to get inside and play that kind of game. They want you to play outside and force you to shoot, and we'll see kind of what happens in that game tonight. You can listen on 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD. Also streaming online at wadenaradio.com/KWAD. 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off from the WDC Middle High School gym. My first basketball game there calling this season. Last week was in the elementary school for that one. So there's a look at our local broadcast schedule for tonight.
Hold on here. I got to tell Zeke a story quick. I believe your assessment, CJ, about this game, and I agree with you. I think especially like the Bayette Gravel matchup is a fascinating one in tonight's game. But Zeke, I do want you to know this. CJ last week had the audacity to come on the morning sports desk and tell me a game with 50 free throws was a nice game.
When I mean nice, I mean it was competitive. It was back and forth. You had some stuff going on.
50 free throws were shot in that game.
Wadena Deer Creek had 35 free throw attempts.
Yeah, take what the Zebras give you. If that's the kind of game you're putting up, I mean, yeah. If you're a LeBron James Lakers team, you're taking 50 free throws. That's a great night, isn't it?
If you're James Harden, you love that game.
50 free throws is so many. I don't think I've ever seen 50 free throws before.
Wasn't there an NBA
game? He had never seen that much in a game.
Wasn't there like an NBA game recently that had like 50 missed threes or something like that?
Yeah.
And somebody.
It was like two kind of not great teams.
Brick after brick after brick. Yeah.
They built so many houses for the game. It was so nice to see them come together, laying those bricks.
I did have a state tournament game where I think they combined for in the 40s for free throws, which is too many.
Too many.
All right. Anyway, I just needed to make sure one person was in on this too. We can move on now.
Find the full local sports broadcast schedule online at wadenaradio.com or on the Superstation K106 mobile app or by following Sports Cow on Facebook. Can I get a moo, gentlemen?
Moo.
All right.
Sorry.
Maybe one of these days I'll make a graphic.
Rebrand Sports Donkey.
There you go.
Maybe one of these days when I get a graphic ready for the Sports Cow Facebook page that I'll get to right times. And every time I get work ahead of time, I have it scheduled. I'm like working ahead. And then all of a sudden Corey texts me every morning. Oh, hey, just so you know, my game got moved up an hour.
Yeah. Every single time.
This is teaching me a costly lesson. Why work ahead? Why
do early what you could put off to later? That's a good life. It's a life philosophy of mine.
Just let things happen. Look, I was being productive on a Monday. I felt so good about myself, Corey, and then.
Productivity is overrated. You think I'm joking.
Why we just have a sports podcast. It's just so we can, they yelled at us for talking about sports all day. So we just figured, fine, we'll just record it.
Yeah, don't pay us anymore, but we'll record the conversation, make it seem official.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little Minnesota Vikings as we wrap up the sports desk today. The Vikings are 12-2 for the first time since they were 11-2 for the first time since 2009. And I believe that they are 12-2 for the first time. Well, I was going to say since 98, but they only lost one game that year. This is the fastest they've got to 12 wins since 1998.
How'd they do in 98?
You know what? They got to the NFC title game.
But hey, they have the team that beat them has Kirk Cousins now. So talking about that long game.
Yeah.
Buckle up, Falcons fans. See?
Boy, do I hate the Dirty Bird with all of my heart.
Jamal Anderson, I still can't. I can't do it.
Sports. It's okay. Will Reichard knew the assignment, so that's why he missed that kick last week, or 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was.
Sure.
He was like, you know what? I don't want people to say he hasn't missed a kick all year. Let me just shank this one quick.
Against Atlanta.
Yeah, against Atlanta.
They're playing like fine football, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yesterday's game wasn't a wowzers game, but it's more of a wowzers in a bad way against the Chicago Bears. Boy, oh boy, did I see a team give up so quickly. They went for it on fourth down a couple times, didn't get it, and the Vikings made them pay with 10 quick points, and that's really all they needed. Caleb Williams got blasted a few times, some of which wasn't his fault. They put a rookie left tackle against Jonathan Grenard, and that was a mistake because he beat him all day long, and they gave him no help. And also the fact that Caleb Williams hung onto the ball too long, hung in the pocket, took some hits, missed wide open guys. Part of that's the defense doing their job and confusing him. Another part is that looks like a guy who can't wait to find a flight to Cancun and just go hide there for a month.
Can't say I blame him.
Being a Chicago Bears quarterback will do that to you.
I think on the broadcast last night, Troy Aikman was making excuses because there was the clip that I saw after, I forget what it was, where Caleb Williams essentially went and laid down on the bench during the game. He was like tipping over, and it's like, well, you know, the college season is wrapping up, and these guys are playing more games than they've ever played. You're the number one overall pick, and the fatigue at this point shouldn't be that big of an issue, should it be? You're still playing one game a week. I've never played quarterback in the NFL, so I don't know how deep into this I can speak. But you're playing one game a week. You're the consensus number one overall guy. You should be ready to play every single week, whether you're getting blasted or not. Now, granted, this Vikings defense is a different animal, and it can be frustrating at times, like we saw last night for Caleb, who was running for his life many, many times. But that, I think that the laying down move is just further perpetuating this notion about Caleb Williams that he, yes, he's a remarkable physical talent, but mentally and stuff like that, he's just not ready for the role that he's been cast into.
That was a concern last year at USC. They lost a couple tough games, and it was again, it's not the fact that he was crying on the sideline, but it's the fact of you see pictures of him crying on the sideline, and then Lincoln Riley doesn't make him talk to the media after games, and he doesn't talk to media. He's running to the tunnel early. It's, as a quarterback, rightly or wrongly, there's some responsibilities that you just have. You have to be a leader of a team, and not that, you could correct that if you get good coaching, if you get a good situation, those things can be smoothed out. You can mature, you can grow. All of that is true. The Chicago Bears just did nothing to help build an environment that could help him overcome those flaws. Whereas a Kevin O'Connell would have been much better at keeping him kind of in the highs and lows and managing some of that. The Bears just were not set up to help Caleb Williams. As much as everybody talked, this is the best situation for a number one overall pick ever. Caleb Williams is going to be so good. Look at everything the Bears did, but they didn't. And Caleb Williams is, this isn't a Bears podcast, so I don't want to go too deep in the weeds, but you're right. Like, that's a guy who looked like he did not want to be there, and he wanted to get in and get out. And the Vikings, for the most part, did. And not just on Caleb, but on the run defense for the Bears. When it got to late in the game, the Vikings just ran it down the Bears' throats. Like that looked like a defense that was just ready to be done.
There's two things it reminds me of. One, the Bears team in general just reminds me of the early 2000s Detroit Lions. There's just like there's skill everywhere, and the infrastructure around it is crumbling. It's just not. It's parking your Lamborghini in your lean-to. Like, what are we doing here? I would still the upside with Caleb is still obviously through the roof. He's a high school drafty 2-pitch pitcher right now. He's got an unbelievable fastball. He's got an unbelievable curveball. The curveball for Caleb being his escapability. He doesn't have an off-speed pitch. He doesn't have that second gear. In basketball, to use another, like point guards, those point guards that change pace, they know when to push it. They know when to pull it back. They know when to go left. They know when to go right. They know where to pass. When Caleb doesn't have that right now, and he hasn't been set up to succeed. I mean, he's getting drilled all the time. And a part of that is also, again, this isn't a Bears podcast, but we talk a lot of NFC North. The NFC North's awesome. And so he has not only been brought into a terrible Chicago Bears just infrastructure, it just so happens that the Vikings might finish the season with 2 losses and be the 5 seed. Like you're right. This is not a good situation for Caleb Williams to be brought into, because holy buckets is the NFC. I mean, Green Bay's no joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
Yeah, 10-4. They're the 6th seed in the playoffs right now. They'd be leading any other division except the NFC East and the NFC North.
And by the way, the Lions, they're hurt on defense, but that's still a team that can score. They're not like dead. They're just hurt.
You better be ready to keep up with them.
Have you guys seen the Vegas line on David Montgomery?
No.
So he has 775 yards, right? Tore his MCL, done for the year. His over-under Vegas line was 775.5.
Goodness. They're so good
at that. Just nailed it. Just nailed it.
How do they do that?
I don't know.
I had an observation from the game last night. I agreed with every 4th down try from both teams last night.
Yeah, if you're the Bears.
One. I don't often get through those where there's always one where I was like, just kick this friggin' field goal and move on with your lives. I agreed with every single one. That doesn't happen very often.
Well, and for the Bears, I get the philosophy of them. It's like, look, we're sucky. Let's just be aggressive and maybe we'll pop one and like, let's keep it rolling. Like that's all fine and good. Who cares about kicking field goals? You need to try and get your offense some reps. That's totally understandable. For the Vikings, and ESPN has that analytic, like they kind of have their power index of like, should you go for it? Should you not? And for the Bears, especially early, it was go for it. And I think the algorithm is like, I think 3 yards is the threshold, because the Vikings had a 4th and 3 and they went for it. And the ESPN thing told them to kick. They were up by 10 first half, take the points, whatever. But yeah, like you said, I didn't disagree with that call at all. I thought, and by the way, if Justin Jefferson, which he'll catch this 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, 999,999 out of 1,000,000, he just dropped that one pass. That was a touchdown 2 plays before. And Sam Darnold throws a pick 2 plays later on that 4th down play. Whatever, it's an arm punt. Who cares? Like at the end of the day, in a normal situation, you already converted the touchdown. But also like, yeah, go for it on 4th down. Like your defense is stopping them. And there's nothing that Bears offense is doing to get in rhythm. So go for the kill shot early. Yeah, I didn't disagree with any of the 4th down calls last night. And I think everybody wants to be the guy who blasts all these 4th down calls. Anytime Dan Campbell does anything, everybody's rushing to rip that guy's head off. Like everybody talked about him with the 4th down call last week, or the onside kick rather. I don't blame him for doing the onside kick. Your defense was getting gashed and you needed time. Time was you were trying to fight the clock. If you're going to give up a touchdown, at least give it up quickly so you have a chance to score again and try to, like, that's fine. Like he regretted going for that onside. He shouldn't. Like that's fine. But there's everybody who wants to rip it just because you want to be the guy ripping Dan Campbell. The Lions wouldn't be in this spot if it wasn't for Dan Campbell going, no risk it, no biscuit, basically. So it is what it is. I think aggressiveness just is the way coaching is now. Yeah, I don't blame the Vikings for doing anything they did last night.
And you see what happened when the Vikings did punt? They almost got Ryan Wright killed on that punt block where the guy blocked it with his head and then like headbutted his leg while he was in the air and took him down. The Vikings should never punt again, just for the safety of Ryan Wright. Just no more punts. No more punts.
Broke his nose with his own knee.
Right?
Never. Could you imagine being that flexible?
Ugh.
There's no way I could knee myself in the nose without. I mean, I'd be hurt.
Let me put it this way, Corey, of how inflexible I am. Remember the sit and reach that you had to do in Phi-Ed in school? There was a big wooden block. You had to put your feet up on it. You had to put your hands like this and lean.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the certain inch marks, but they don't do all of the board. There's like a certain threshold where they finally start measuring. I never, ever got to the point where they even could measure where I was. That was how inflexible I was.
So you're saying the president was not happy with your physical fitness?
No, I'm saying, in fact, I think I need to request a pardon for how bad it was.
Do they still do that stuff? Is the presidential fitness stuff still around?
I would guess so.
I don't know. If only one of our spouses worked in a school district, we could find out.
Yeah.
I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, overall for the Vikings, special teams has kind of been an issue for this team, but whatever. I don't know if that was, some people were, if you watch the replay, it looks like Ty Chandler just completely let a guy get past him. Some people were saying it was that Kamir Grugier-Hill or whatever his name is kind of messed up. We'll have to see. The coaches will kind of ultimately know. All I'll say is Will Reichard made his kicks, and that guy feels like he's kind of gotten back in his groove after being out for a month and was a little shaky early. Feels like he's gotten back in rhythm. And
everything about him, by the way, he reminds me of the kickers I watched growing up. Like he looks goofy, strong, goofy Martin Gramatica.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
He's got like that. He's from Alabama. He's got that.
Kyle Horvath was the same way. Like what? This is this goofy looking. That guy who kicks for Dallas, who's unbelievable. He looks like he's 6'4" and he was put on this earth to kick footballs 75 yards through the air. Like that guy.
A soccer player?
No, probably. I just love. All these guys were soccer players. I just love that Reichard he physically looks like all the kickers that kicked growing up.
That guy physically looks like a 20-year-old that went to the University of Alabama. It just so happened he was the kicker on the football team.
Yeah. Speaking of kickers, did you guys watch any of the high school all-star game or catch any of that?
I did not.
But Daniel Jackson set the game record for the longest field goal. He's the Alexandria kid going to the U.
Yeah.
Later in the game, another Gopher commit kicker kicked a 54-yarder to break Jackson's record that he just set like an hour earlier.
Did they fight at midfield for the starting job?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Cool.
So a lot of good special teams coming to the Gophers in the next season. Yeah.
Gophers have always had good kickers.
Mm-hmm. We know how to raise them here.
I know Stephen Petrich with Staples-Motley was at that All-Star game.
Yep.
There's a kid whose name, forgive me, from Park Rapids area. I know had a sack in that game. So there was some good local representation and probably others that I'm forgetting. Don't hold
Ryan Brinkman, Detroit Lakes, 3-year starting offensive lineman was there. So yeah, a lot of good talent in this area being represented there over the weekend.
Did you guys get invited to that?
No, I just went to my first U.S. Bank Stadium game like
an hour
ago. Yeah. I was looking at my press pass on my wall. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't get the invite either. I don't know. I assume
lost in the mail. Darn postage. It's a holiday season. It got just kind of lost in the shuffle.
I would have happily run out waters to those huddles.
Oh yeah.
How much NIL you making next year? I could carry water for you next year at college if you wanted.
I still at every football game just want a coach's headset. I still just
listening.
That's what I want.
You just want to be there. You'll say something into the microphone, and then you just hear a coach go, "Could you please clear the channel?" Radio silence on all channels, please.
Are the Vikings that game was weird, right? Like did they feel Chicago give up, and that's why it ended up being it was sloppy times. They had they had way too many penalties. I was not really a fan of that. Are they? This is kind of who they've been now for like 6 or 7 weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. This is a blowout in all sense of the word. The Vikings did play sloppy. I mean, you had the punt block. The Vikings ran into the punter for Chicago. There was, half the penalties were on Cam Robinson, who just couldn't line up right. And there's a couple other things that you throw in there, but yeah, this is sloppy. And so if you play this sloppy against Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit, you're going to likely lose those games, or you're going to be in a position you do not want to be in late in the ball game. But, you try watching, it's so funny, the fact that Detroit barely gets by Chicago of Chicago's own incompetence. And everybody's like, what a win for Detroit. And nobody says anything about Detroit. But then the Vikings win against the Bears, and it's, I don't know. They didn't blow them out. So they aren't the Vikings. You're 12-2. They're a good team. Yeah, it's sloppy. Yeah, it wasn't the best. It didn't necessarily make us go, whoa, but they got the win. They still control their own destiny for the 1 seed. And that's really what I'm taking away from this game.
Yeah, the Vikings have had worse wins this season. You look back at Jacksonville, you look at Indianapolis, you look at some of those, and you look at the last time we played Chicago when we had the big lead and we had to win that game in overtime. There have been uglier ones than what I thought the Vikings did last night. Was it a perfect game? No, but was it a game where you gave up 14 points in the last 2 minutes to have the Bears force overtime and you have to kick a game-winning field goal to win it? No, I think for Chicago, I think they looked like they gave up this season, because I think it was Troy Aikman mentioned on the broadcast last night. You look back to that Washington Commanders game, the Hail Mary game, where Tyreek Stevenson tipped it up. Washington wins it. You follow that up with the blocked field goal in Green Bay that loses you the game. You have you're going to beat the Packers. You lose that one. You have the blown timeout call that Matt Eberflus still has in his back pocket against Detroit on Thanksgiving. You factor those in, and maybe it's a different Chicago Bears team we see last night, but it looks like these guys are packing it in. They're ready for Cancun, and the Vikings did what they need to do, because we've seen in the past Vikings, they've those games have either been a lot closer than they need to be, or they just flat out lose those games, and that's what has me have. I'm very nervous about Seattle next weekend with Geno Smith banged up. I don't know what Vikings team we're going to see, because it seems like we never play well in Seattle, and that's where we had 3:05 kickoff on Sunday.
By the way, it's America's game of the week. Vikings have not won in Seattle since 2006, and we get Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady on the call.
Is there a sports version of a Razzie to give to Tyreek Stevenson for his efforts this year?
I love that guy so much right now.
If not, we should make our own. He's the meme that keeps on memeing. He was doing a chant after the pick, down where their win probability at the time was like 13% or something like that.
I try to get your team back in the game, but studies have shown that mocking the Skol chant in US Bank Stadium, not a great way to win a game ever.
No,
because we've seen that blown up in people's faces so many times.
I think there's an old Vikings coach that has something about the Chicago Bears.
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
That's pretty much it. Hey, by the way, with the win, I know it officially happened on Sunday night, but now the Vikings earned it themselves. Playoff bound. 2 out of 3 years in the Kevin O'Connell regime, they have made the postseason and won at least 12 games. He the only guy to do that, Bud Grant. And I think, in fact, if they win a couple more games this year, I think KOC through his first 3 years will have more wins than Bud Grant did through his first 3 years. Now make 4 Super Bowls, and then we'll start to.
Well, as of right now, they have the same amount of Super Bowl wins, so it's a pretty decent pace.
Yeah,
I meant that sarcastically towards the old guy, not the new guy.
Yeah, I know.
The new guy's on an awesome pace.
It's on a good pace. And we're just in the rebuild part of the competitive rebuild. Wait till we get to the competitive part.
Exactly. We're still dinking around with Sam Darnold.
Wait until this team gets money to buy a corner next offseason, or a guard, or a run-stuffing defensive tackle.
Can KOC dunk?
I'm sure he can.
Probably, yeah.
He looks like he's 6'5" with a laser rocket arm.
Mm-hmm.
But is he an athlete?
He was a quarterback.
I think he's sneaky athletic.
One of those.
I think, he doesn't jump off the page at you, but whoa.
He's a corner three kind of guy.
Yeah. He's a heart and hustle kind of guy. He's a lunch pail guy, first in, last out. He's got that dog in him, all stuff like that. One last thing to mention, and then we're going to get out of here because we could talk in circles about this for a while. Randy Moss, of course, it was the winter whiteout game, whiteout uniforms, 10 out of 10 for like a one-off special night.
Really liked them.
No notes. I like the fact that it's actually a special whiteout uniform and not just their whites. It's kind of evolved over the last couple of years, and I like this progression of where it's gone. Can't wait to see what they do next year. Maybe no Vanilla Ice at halftime. Maybe we could just avoid that.
Did I ever tell you I rode on the same plane as Mr. Van Winkle one time?
What?
It's coming back from Philadelphia, and I saw him in the airport, and I was like, I think he's at my gate. So whatever, it's my turn to get on the airplane, and I sat down, and then all of a sudden, like, there he is, Rob Van Winkle. He sat like 4 rows behind me in the plane back from Philadelphia to Minneapolis. Like, this is weird.
You were flying first class back from Philadelphia?
I think I was row. I might have been row like 22.
Okay.
All right.
That's coach, in case anyone's Yep.
Oh, we know.
He had nothing with him. Nothing. A white t-shirt, baggy blue jeans, and a red cap.
Yeah. On a serious note, Randy Moss, of course, was honored.
Right. Good job. Perfect.
Way to derail that.
Yeah.
On a serious note, Randy Moss battling cancer.
Go ninja, go.
Anybody ever watch the movie Cool as Ice?
I'm sorry, Randy. We're all praying for you, buddy.
You ever seen the Cool as Ice? It's a direct-to-VHS movie starring Vanilla Ice. No. Apparently, Gwyneth Paltrow was going to be in it, but her father refused out of fear that it would tank her career. Sometimes Daddy just knows best.
Probably a wise decision.
In other news, poor Randy Moss is suffering from
He's suffering from liver cancer.
Yeah, I love the Moss shot. I love how Jake Reed and Chris Carter showed up last night with the Moss jersey. I love the Justin Jefferson shout out to Randy. Love the Adam Thielen in his game wearing the Randy Moss jersey before the Panthers played. So just league wide support for 84.
After the game, Justin Jefferson took questions from the media in the locker room in a Randy Moss jersey. Mm-hmm. So, and by the way, I kind of forgot about this. They pointed this out on ESPN last night. I mean, remember, not only is Jefferson play for the Vikings and knows Randy Moss that way, he played college ball with his son at LSU. Thaddeus Moss was a tight end on that 2019 LSU team. So they go back a while. So for Justin, I mean, you see stories about wide receivers all the time and the drama they create and all this, that. Justin Jefferson, man, is worth his weight in gold, not just for his receiving play, but that dude is just a professional. So everything about Justin Jefferson, it's hard. You can't find one thing about Justin Jefferson that you can dislike about him.
I think his house is too small. That may be the one thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It was like a 2-bedroom townhouse or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, somebody made a point of that when he signed his contract, and he's like, well, I don't need it. Yeah. Just a classic lunch pail guy. That's what he is.
Quarter 3 guy, Justin Jefferson.
This has been the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday, the 17th of December. See you next time.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.